We have today two-step equations. And to solve two-step equations, our goal is to find out what x is. In other words, we need to isolate the variable or get it by itself. There are some things you need to know before we start. First is the identity property of 1. This property states that multiplying a number times 1 will give you back an identical number. Example, 1 times x gives back x. Another property is the identity property of 0, which says that combining any number with 0 will give you back the identical number you started with, such as x plus 0 equals x. Equations also use opposite operations. So if there's addition in the equation, to solve it we'll use subtraction. If there's multiplication in the equation, we'll use division, and vice versa. Let's do some examples with what I call move and split. So our first move is to move 4 away from the variable by combining it with its opposite, or subtracting. To be fair, we subtract on the other side also. This gives us 3x plus 0. We do not need to show this step, which simplifies into 3x equals 15, and you don't need to show that step either. But you do need to show this, 3x equals 15, and we are going to split the 3 away from the x by dividing by 3, which makes a 1. We divide on both sides. This leaves us with 1 times x equals a negative 5, and this is the identity property of multiplication, which says that 1 times x is x, so our answer is x equals a negative 5. Let's try a couple out. Our first equation reads 7x plus 1 equals a negative 13. First, we will move the plus 1 away from the x by subtracting 1 on both sides. This creates a 0 on the left side and leaves us with 7x equals a negative 14. Next, we want to split the 7 away from the x, so we're going to divide by 7 to create a 1, and we divide by 7 on the other side also. This leaves x equals a negative 2. The next equation you should try on your own. The first thing to do is move minus 8 away from 3y by adding 8 to both sides. This leaves 3y equals 6. Next, we want to split the 3 away from the y by dividing by 3, which makes a 1. And we do this on both sides. And we see that y equals 2. Next, go over an example of move and split with addition and subtraction before multiplication this time. Our first goal is to move 4 away from the variable by subtracting 4 from both sides. This leaves a 0 plus 1/7 m equals 5, and you don't need to show that step. But this step exists because of the identity property of addition. It leaves us at this point 1/7 m equals 5, and you don't need to show that step. But you do need to show multiplying 1/7 m times 7 over 1 and multiplying both sides by 7. The object here is to cancel this number into 1s, and 1 times m equals m. This last statement is based on the identity property of multiplication, which is revealed right here. And the answer ends up being m equals 35. I need to show you this one because it's the identical equation as compared to the one just above. And it solves in a similar fashion. We begin by moving the 4, and we do that by subtracting and making 0 and subtracting on both sides. This leaves us with m over 7, or m divided by 7 equals 5. The opposite of dividing by 7 is multiplying by 7, and then we can cancel to make a 1 and multiply on both sides. And we end up again with m equals 35. The point of this problem is to show you that m over 7 is really the same thing as 1/7 times m. If you multiply m over 1 times 7, you get m over 7. So they're the same fraction. Now you do this one. So we subtract from both sides 2. This makes a 0 here. Keep an eye on that negative 3x. We have moved the 2. Now we have to split the negative 3 by dividing by a negative 3 to make 1 on both sides, which gives us x equals 7. So it's important to realize you have to divide a negative by a negative in this problem.